Hey everybody, this is Taz, the PSP game reviewer, and this week I will be uploading count 'em, 4 video game reviews. This is compensation for me not uploading a video game review in 3 weeks, because I was originally planning on doing one each weekend, but things kinda got out of hand, and now I'm this far behind. Ugh. Anyway, the first game that we will be reviewing this weekend is Final Fantasy 1 20th Anniversary Edition for the PlayStation Portable. As I hope you know, this is the 20th Anniversary Edition, which means that the original game, Final Fantasy, came out 20 years ago. And, just to let you know, it was originally released for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, about the game. You see, a little story behind this is that when the company was going to develop the game, they had gone bankrupt. I mean, they were like out of money. So they decided to go out with a bang. They created their final game, which in a press conference they said was going to be a fantasy game. So, put 2 and 2 together, and you have Final Fantasy. The game was a hit. This is because it had, like, no story, and mostly just fighting. Not to mention the end boss is pretty cool. The concept of it was pretty neat once you play through it, but, as I said, fighting, yes. Story, no. So, to start off our review, we'll be looking at, guess what, the story of Final Fantasy. Alright everybody, now about the story of the original Final Fantasy. Now, the thing is, in this game, you start off in the middle of a peninsula. There's a castle above you. Why don't you go to it? So, if you decide to go to the castle, you'll be immediately taken to the king, or you can go to the town. In the town, you'll see some really uninteresting people, some shops, which you probably can't buy anything because you don't have much money, and some soldiers who are blocking every exit. Let's go talk to a soldier. Oh, okay, we have to see the king. The king says you have to rescue his daughter from the evil knight Garland by going to the Chaos Shrine. Well, since there's nothing else to do, because the bridge is broken, you might as well go. Alright, so we're at the Chaos Shrine. Here, Garland makes a little speech about, like, taking over Cornelia, you know, the typical villain thing. You fight him, you kill him, you rescue the princess, go back to the castle. King thanks you, tells you gotta save the world by restoring the crystals, and as you're about to leave, the princess gives you a little instrument. Yay. So then the rest of the game you go throughout the world fighting monsters and bosses trying to restore the crystals. That's pretty much the gist of it without giving anything away. Not like there's much. So, let's move on. Alright, our next category is graphics and music. I have to admit though, it's getting late tonight, it's like really late, so I'm going to go to bed, and I will get up tomorrow, and I will finish this review. Okay, I feel better. Now, where were we? Ah yes, graphics and music. Now, graphic-wise, this game doesn't stand out. I mean, okay, look. From the PS1 version, from the NES version, PS1 version 2, it has gotten a lot better graphics-wise. The sprites look a lot smoother, everything just looks better. It's really good graphics-wise for 2D. But, like I said, it's just 2D. It's not like 3D or anything. But you know what? I'm not going to really take away points for that. So the graphics are very good for sprites. But the music. Now, this is where the game stands out. All the music in this game, like, seems either kind of menacing or like, grrr, but all of it, every single piece in this game has a heroic element to it. It makes you feel like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna kick your butt. I'm gonna win, I'm gonna find the crystals, and I'm gonna defeat this game, yeah! I mean, the music, just, if you listen to it, I mean, it's wonderful. As you're traveling around the map, it feels like you're going on an adventure. You're going on an adventure, Charlie. Anyway, it's just wonderful. You go through, it feels heroic. When you're fighting, it's like, ooh, are we gonna win? And there's like that little underlying tone of heroism again. You're like, yeah, we're gonna win. Back to the graphics. Each sprite has their own little individual animations, unless, like I said, you make more than one warrior in a party, in which case they'll have the same and such. Each spell has its own, even when it levels up. Like, you will not level up in this game. These spells just get replaced by one another. But each spell has its own animation, each sword has a slightly different look, and sometimes different cut. All the enemies do have pretty much the same death scenes, but that's not the point. Each enemy has its own unique sprite and just looks fantastic. The backgrounds in these games, unlike the original NES version, which was just a black background with maybe a few little trees or something, the backgrounds in this game are very nice. They look like painted backgrounds. They're just wonderful, just beautiful. So the graphic-wise in this game, for a 2D sprite game, just looks excellent. So with all that jabbering done, let's go on to the next category. Alright, about the gameplay and difficulty of Final Fantasy 1. The gameplay is pretty much just like any other Final Fantasy, although I must admit each one has its own little differences. So in this one, the classic, they've remade it so that it's not quite the same as the NES version. For example, in the NES version, you would just buy spells. But in the remakes, I'm not sure if it's a first for the PSP, I don't think it is though. In the remakes, instead of buying spells, you have MP. So you learn the spells, and then you use up your MP when you cast them, instead of just using one spell book for one spell. Anyway, as for the gameplay, you just select your commands from the list as you fight, and when you're walking around, you just use the arrow keys to walk. You also can press select plus circle at the same time to get a map. Other than that, though, all you have to do is go through your command menu and select what to do in battle. On the world map, you can go through your characters and look at their status, how their levels are doing, what spells they have, what weapons they have equipped. So it's just customizing your party, and like I said before, this game is mostly just gameplay. All you have to do is fight your way through. There's not much of a story to it. You just fight, fight, fight. I mean, you learn stuff, which is part of the story, which is good, very good, very good. But your characters don't talk, your characters just know how to fight. Now, as for the difficulty, the game can be, once again, difficult or easy depending on how you play it. If you play it normally, like how most people would, it gradually gets harder as you go through, but your players also get gradually stronger, so the game pretty much stays consistent throughout. However, there will be certain areas where there's the leap in difficulty, which makes the whole game difficult. And as I'm not sure you know, but I'm going to tell you anyway, this being one of the remakes, they put in the bonus dungeons. Now, the bonus dungeons have characters from Final Fantasy IV, actually make that Final Fantasy III to Final Fantasy VI. These bosses, obviously, being from the later games, have a whole lot more health. Granted, if you have a good party, they won't be difficult at all, but like I said, they have a lot more health, and they're pretty strong. And, little thing to let you know, in the Anniversary Edition, they added the Time Labyrinth, which in itself is a freaking chore. Or at least it was for me. I'm sure that somebody out there's like going, no, that was easy, man. I mean, come on, nobody could, you could die in that thing, it was so freaking easy. Anyway, they added that in the PSP version, which I find to be very difficult. And at the end is something even more difficult. Depending on your decisions in the labyrinth, there's a boss at the end that gets more powerful depending on what you do. This boss is called Chrono Trigger. Anyway, it is a very powerful boss and can easily kill your party. So if you're going to fight it, I recommend you really just level up and get tougher before you fight her. Also make sure you have plenty of MP, have plenty of spells, the good ones anyway, and just know what you're doing. Like I said, gameplay is just scroll through commands and fight. in difficulty. There's also a new game mode that you can get afterward called New Game Plus, where the difficulty is slightly higher and the bosses are more difficult and all that. Somewhat difficult to get through, but truly it's pretty much the same as the other one, and since you've already played through it one time, you'll know where everything is, and that makes the game that much easier. So it's not too difficult when you go through it. I'm sure that you'll live, or die, like my friend. Yeah, I'm sorry. Little story is that when I gave the game to my friend, he died within seconds of starting, so just a little warning, it can be difficult when you first start out. Anyway, that's pretty much all the categories we're going to go over, since this doesn't have controls because it's made for the PlayStation Portable. So, let's tally up the final score. Alright everybody, time to finish up with our final score. Now, I don't like people that flame me, so please don't hate me for the score I give this game. I give it a pretty decent score, although, personally, I might have rated it a little bit lower, but, you know, here we go. The story of this game, I give a 7.5, which I was originally going to give a 6, but it's a 7.5. This is because the story is very simple, but when I really think about it, there is some neat stuff that you can learn from all the characters. Running around is kind of tedious, but learning the information is neat. You'll learn some stuff about the world, and each person has their own little story, so truly, that's not bad overall. However, I wish your players could talk. I mean, maybe just like a yes or no, every now and then. No? Okay, we're just gonna make all your characters mute, so whatever. Anyway, moving on to the graphics. Graphics in this game, I give an 8. Like I said, I wouldn't let the 2D affect the score. Well, maybe I did subconsciously a little bit, I don't really know. But the sprites look beautiful on the PSP screen. The backgrounds are very nice, the attacks are well rendered, everything just looks excellent. The bosses are very cool when you look at them in detail, especially when you get your bestiarity. I think that's what it's called. I'm probably wrong. When you look at your bestiarity and it shows all the bosses where you can look at them closer. In fact, I even have a picture of a certain flying boss from Final Fantasy V that's in the bonus dungeon as my phone's interior screensaver. So, like I said, the graphics in this are great because the sprites look awesome. Granted, it could probably be better somehow, and I'm sure they're going to do that the next time they remake this, because, trust me, they will. And the music. Delightful music in this game. I have to give it a 9. Like I said before, the music is very heroic, and it can really give you a lot of different emotions when you're going through the palace of that fake king, who turns out to be Astos. See, look at this, I can't pronounce anything, I'm awful. Anyway, the Elf King, the Dark Elf King, his castle has an excellent, dark kind of tone, but like I said, all the music has a nice little heroic part to it, so it makes you feel like you're gonna win, or you're gonna get through this, no matter what. For the gameplay, I give it a 7.5. This is because this is the first Final Fantasy game, which, like I said, they changed the MP system, or just the magic system, so that you have MP instead of buying spells. This is okay by me. I mean, it works either way for me, is what I'm trying to say. This just makes it so that you have to level up more, because you can't just buy your spells. No, you have to have MP. The gameplay itself is just simple. You scroll through your commands, go through the menu, check your characters, and fight! Now, that brings us to the difficulty. Difficulty in this game, like I said, can be hard or easy depending on how you play it, but as you saw from those last few gameplay videos, it's pretty tough. Trying to get through it can be a hassle, especially when fighting certain bosses or encountering enemies in large numbers. You just go, and you just want to get out of it. But other than that, the difficulty